r/AskReddit. What is a fun fact that is mildly disturbing? Christopher Mintz-Plass's mom had to be on set during the filming of his attempted sex scene in Superbad because he was only 17 at the time it was being filmed. I'll do you one better. Sophie Turner, who played Sansa Stark in God, bio parents are separated. The first time her dad ever visited her on set was the day they shot the Ramsay Bolton rape scene. Dolphins can and will pick stuff up and move it around using their penises. Dolphins are the Florida man of the ocean. In medieval times, diabetes was known as the honey sickness, and to test for it a physician would have to taste your urine. In Korean it is called, which translates to sweet urine disease. There's a condition in which people become blind, but deny their blindness. The brain creates false perceptions to fill in for the lack of sight. It's called the Anton syndrome. So can they still see? Or do they only think they can see and it's just a hallucination? A lion's tongue is so rough it can lick your skin off. I learned this valuable piece of information from a toy in a Arby's kids meal when I was younger. On a related note, in medieval times a form of torture involved a goat licking the sole of your feet. Their tongue is rough enough that it can slowly lick off your skin, and the salt used to encourage the goat to lick them only make pain worse. When you're cremated, your teeth explode from the heat. I work at a funeral home and manage the crematory and have never heard this before. If this is true, it doesn't happen to everyone. When the cremation is finished, we have to process the cremains, which involves removing any metal. We then put them in a blender-type bucket that makes all the big pieces into the fine powder that people are probably familiar with. During this process I'll find teeth all the time. A lot of them just get really hard and it's almost like a gemstone or something. I don't know how to describe it. I read another comment saying the heads explode or we remove the head, which isn't true at all. It's hot enough that everything will cremate without moving the body at all. But we will sometimes open the door a crack, close to the end of the cremation, to move some of the parts under the direct flame. The head has enough sinus holes that pressure can escape without the head exploding, and the bones become extremely brittle. So the skull does not explode and hit the door. That's the metal door reacting to the heat inside and the cooler air outside the chamber. Moths will vibrate their genitals as a way to prevent bats from locating them. Joker, where did you go? What's the matter? Bats? Can't see a guy with some jiggle in his pickle? Ahoo-hoo-hoo. You'll pay for this. Turtles can masturbate. Found Master Splinter's Reddit account. If Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin got stuck on the moon, the official policy was to cut communication and let them suffocate in silence. Nixon even had a speech prepared in case this happened. In event of moon disaster, fate has ordained that the men who went to the moon to explore in peace will stay on the moon to rest in peace. These brave men, Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin, know that there is no hope for their recovery, but they also know that there is hope for mankind in their sacrifice. These two men are laying down their lives in mankind's most noble goal, the search for truth and understanding. They will be mourned by their families and friends. They will be mourned by their nation. They will be mourned by the people of the world. They will be mourned by a Mother Earth that dared send 2 of her sons into the unknown. In their exploration, they stirred the people of the world to feel as one. In their sacrifice, they bind more tightly the brotherhood of man. In ancient days, men looked at stars and saw their heroes in the constellations. In modern times, we do much the same, but our heroes are epic men of flesh and blood. Others will follow, and surely find their way home. Man's search will not be denied, but these men were the first, and they will remain the foremost in our hearts. For every human being who looks up at the moon in the nights to come will know that there is some corner of another world that is forever mankind. Prior to the president's statement, the president should telephone each of the widows to be. After the president's statement, at the point when NASA ends communications with the men, a clergyman should adopt the same procedure as a burial at sea, commending their souls to the deepest of the deep, concluding with the Lord's Prayer. Quotation mark. It isn't your sweat that smells. It comes from bacteria living on your body, essentially shitting stuff out after they feast on your secretions. At least I'm not the only one shitting on myself. Tumors can grow teeth, hair, eyes and miniature versions of organs. Dermoid cyst? I had one on an ovary and it had hair and teeth. I told my sister I was going to ask for it in a jar and she'd be an ant. Woodpecker's tongue wraps all the way around his skull. Interestingly, this effectively makes a woodpecker immune to concussions. So whack 'em in the head to your heart's content. The sea cucumber will disembowel itself when it feels threatened. It will projectile vomit its digestive system to scare off a predator. Following, and the ejecta is a delicacy in Japan called kanawada. There are over 200 corpses on Mount Everest and they are used as waypoints for climbers. I just watched a Bear Grylls interview for Vanity Fair where he goes over 10 survival scenes in movies or shows, and one of the last ones is a movie about a guy who dies on Everest and he gets choked up cause he climbed Everest and has seen the guy who's featured in the film. The body is perfectly preserved and he's like 20 yards from the top and everyone passes him. It's cheaper to print with human blood instead of printer ink. I suppose the reason we don't do this is because printer ink comes in yellow, cyan, and magenta, and human blood only comes in shades of red. Dolphins use dead fish as pocket pussies. Okay, what the fuck? Male anglerfish breed by attaching itself to the bottom of the female and inserting all of its insides inside of her. Wait, how does everyone else do it? Meerkats are adorable creatures. They even started in a show called Meerkat Manor, but they are, by far, the most murderous species of any animal, killing more of their own species with greater frequency than any other animal. I was at a zoo a while back and they actually described them as piranhas of the desert. Butterflies engage in a behavior called mud puddling where they seek out puddles of moisture to drink for nutrients. If a puddle of blood is the closest thing, they will puddle in it and proceed to drink the blood for its nutrients. Butterflies are vampires confirmed. There was a series of movies during the 1980s called the Guinea Pig films that were so gory that the director of the movies was actually investigated by the cops and had to show how he did the effects. Very similar with Cannibal Holocaust. The actors had to testify they were still alive. If you have a boob job, the database for implants is so well kept and readily available across the country that they can identify your body based on the serial number of your implants. I work at a hospital, and while this is only very loosely related, I once was in materials, and the guy there said, "Hey, help me out for a minute." I ran over, and he handed me a giant stack of boxes. You now know what it feels like to hold $50K worth of tits. Quotation mark. It was a fun day. About 30% of your poop is dead bacteria, the other 70% is corn. Everyone has Demodex, or eyelash mites, living in their eyelashes. They are microscopic and typically do not cause any issues. People may get skin problems if their Demodex population gets out of control, but that can be avoided with proper hygiene. They feed on dead skin cells, but they've apparently also started taking a liking to mascara. Even more fun fact, Demodex don't have buttholes. They still eat, but they can't poop, meaning they'll all die when they explode into a glorious, almost festive poopsplosion. At some point the punishment for attempted suicide was death. Task failed successfully. You can fuck up your future at any time. Bold of you to assume everyone here has a future. Your skeleton is wet. Oh, I felt sticky after reading this. If you get bit by the wrong fly, you can get worms in your eye. They can live up to 17 years. 8 I'm head out. If you win it big in the lottery, you have a higher chance of both getting murdered and committing suicide. You mean after you get the money it only gets better? Male giraffes will headbutt a female in the bladder until she urinates. Then it tastes the pee to helps it determine whether the female is ovulating. My GF hates when I do this. Humans produce enough saliva in their lifetime to fill 2 swimming pools, Olympic-sized pools, or inflatable kiddie pools? Bunnies actually have the ability to scream, but they will only scream if they feel they are about to die. Not necessarily. My roommate's old bunny would scream to get his attention. A horrible blood-curdling scream. But he learned that when he made that sound, my roommate would come running to check on him. Chimpanzees just flat out love to eat monkeys. They love it so much they feasted on certain breeds to local extinction. Always found this moderately disturbing because of the similarities in the species. Like if wolves sought after puppies. Wolves do seek after puppies. Most wild carnivores will happily eat a fat, slow, trusting domestic animal. Cannibalism is pretty damn common in hamsters, as I understand it. Only in pet hamsters. In the wild they behave dramatically differently. Maybe something to do with every pet hamster descending from a single brother-sister pair. Don't try to Google to verify that. I know I read it, but I tried to find the article by Googling hamster brother-sister pair and now I need to go be alone and think about life for a bit. Brain aneurysms have little to no warning. headache, and are only diagnosable by CT scan. Roughly 1 in 50 people in the US have an unruptured brain aneurysm right now that could rupture at any time. A quarter of VA cases were misdiagnosed and 75% of those were no CT scans ordered by the doctor. Enjoy your next headache. A guy I worked with a long time ago had a wife who passed a few weeks before I started there. He was at work when it happened. She called him from home saying she got a sudden splitting headache that was getting worse and worse over the last 2 or 3 minutes. She was terrified. Then thud. Silence. She was gone. Jeffrey Dahmer used to give his neighbors sandwiches. Jeff was always cooking something. Yet Jeff never bought no groceries. There was a Nazi general who was hanged in the Nuremberg trials and strangled to death for 17 minutes because the noose didn't break his neck. Edit. Misspelling. I have latex gloves on while using mobile. I have latex gloves on while using mobile. Don't want to leave evidence when strangling victims for 17 minutes. Another fun execution fact. If you were getting burned to death and you were lucky, your pyre would be made of wet logs. This produces lots of smoke that will make you asphyxiate before the fire burns you alive. Penguins will often work as prostitutes for other penguins to get stones for their nests. This is not true at all. I'm wrong. I can't find the source I found this from. The best theory is that it's simply a societal act. Pen 1. Bro, I need some rocks. Pen 2. Bro, I got you. Pen 1. So bro, you want some dick? Pen 2. Bro, I thought you'd never ask. The commonly cited fact we eat 8 spiders in our sleep a year, on average, was made up to prove a point about people passing on unconfirmed facts without trying to confirm them. But this is mildly disturbing because we do not know how many spiders we are actually consuming in our sleep. Edit. Autocorrect on mobile perturbed pedants. I heard it's 8. When Stephanie will be 50 years old in less than 3 weeks. Jesus, she's just a girl. You pass the anniversary of your death every year. Antiversary. When you breathe through your nose, almost all of the air goes through only one of your nostrils. The nostrils trade back and forth over time, and everyone who read this is now breathing through their nose repeatedly trying to figure this out. We only have 3% of history recorded since humans reached behavioral modernity. That's why we don't remember Soren. Snow White is 14 years old, and Walt Disney instructed animators to make her look old enough to marry. Similarly, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this how the original Sleeping Beauty story goes. Sleeping Beauty is raped while asleep, gives birth while asleep, and the newborn baby, searching for a nipple from which to feed, sucks the pinprick or sliver or whatever it is out of Sleeping Beauty's finger, and that's what wakes her up. The Romans used crushed mouse brains as toothpaste. What in the name of Phineas and Ferb? Certain psychological research suggests that couples are happiest before their kids are born and after they leave home. Before they arrive. OMG. It's going to be so great. I can't wait for the wonderful beauty and ease of breastfeeding. And the little guy toddling around the store with me. And he will make hilarious little messes and always smell like baby powder and shampoo. Quotation mark. After they leave home. Jesus fuck, that was hard. Let's not do that again. Quotation mark. Source. And parent and grandparent. The latter being much more fun. Mother caecilians amphibian feed their babies with their own skin. Their babies have specialized, temporary teeth that they use to peel off layers of their mother's skin. The skin grows back and the young feed some more, for up to 3 months. I had one of these as a pet once. It lived in my aquarium with several fish, but they breathe air too. And one of the ways you can feed them is with this little hard plastic net thing that has a suction cup. You stick it on the inside of the tank at water level so the net part, like a cone with small holes or slits, sticks down into the water. Then you put in frozen worms, which melt and fall through the hole. One day I come home and this thing is curled up like a snake on top of the feeder, outside of the water like, Also overnight sometimes a fish would go missing. It looked like a cool scaleless, eyeless, pale purple snake. A walrus can suck the skin clean off of a seal. Edited to say I've added a sauce in the replies. So can my ex. You giggled in your sleep last night, at about 3:15 a.m. What in the cinnamon toast fuck is this? Octopuses have what is called decentralized intelligence, which essentially means that their limbs have their own intelligence. For example, if a severed human limb touches acid or fire or anything that would cause pain, nothing would happen. However, if an octopus limb touches acid or fire, it would recoil and avoid it. even though it's been severed and is no longer attached to the octopus. Edit. FFS. I get that it's derived from Greek and the plural is octopuses or octopodes. I changed it. Are you happy now? I think you've missed the point a bit here. Humans do have reflexes that don't involve the brain, only the spinal cord. So it's possible for a decapitated person to still show that same response. However, the individual limbs of the octopus show actual independent thinking, not just reflex actions. There's a condition out there that when tissue get damaged, the body replaces the damaged tissue with bone instead of regenerating the organ. As the person ages, they become slowly encased in a prison of bone until they cannot move anymore. The organs inside them turn hard, and eventually they die at the age of 11. The longest reported life of someone who had this condition lived to 13. Edit. The most commonly damaged part of the body turning to bone is the muscles. The muscles fuse with pre-existing bone and lock up joints. Edit 2. Due to modern medicine, the life expectancy has lengthened since I last read on it. Fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. Thanks for watching, boys and girls. Tell me your story in the comments. Make sure to subscribe for future giveaways.